appreciate.
Now we're live.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to the town hall meeting hosted by the Virginia Justice Alliance and yours truly, Kenneth Deuce Hunter. We are here to discuss the ongoing hunger strike at Red Onion State Prison. We're going to be talking about the root of this issue and how we got to this point. We're going to talk about what would make 14 plus individuals literally starve themselves to death in hopes of getting a message across. What exactly is going on at Red Onion State Prison in Pound, Virginia? Before we get started, I do want to introduce the individuals who will be a part of this town hall meeting. We do have a few guests that may be joining later, but I want to make everybody aware of here and why. I'm going to start with the chairman, if you will, of Virginia Justice Alliance, Jennifer Dalton. Would you please introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself?
I'm Jennifer. I am the founder and chairperson for Virginia Justice Alliance. I've been in this fight for over 10 years, and I have a close friendship with someone who is currently incarcerated at Red Onion. So tonight's episode is deeply personal for me as well as others on this call and everybody watching. So, and then I'd like to introduce our co-chair, vice president, Allison Chafin. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Allison. As Jennifer said, I'm the co-chair of Virginia Justice Alliance. I'm an educator, passionate about the school to prison pipeline, and that's how I found Jennifer and this wonderful organization. My better half is caged in the Virginia Department of Corrections at Red Onion, so this is deeply personal for me as well, and I just want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. And I'm going to pass it to another board member, Jenny.
Hello, my name is Jenny Gibson. I am, like they said, a board member of Virginia Justice Alliance. Wow, I've been in this fight, I guess, since 2015. So I'm just here to support, answer. We field all these calls, so we're here to just kind of put everything in, shed light on everything, and help where we can. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, because that is the first thing I want to start with. Thank you for every individual who is tuned in and will tune in within this next hour. We plan to be brief but powerful.
We do have we do have a special guest, Miss Jeanette.
I was going to. I promised I was going to get, but I apologize. But let's go ahead and get her introduced right now.
Oh, we lost Deuce.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jeanette Lejean. I've been in this fight actually since the 90s, trying to prevent privatization of prisons. And I can say reintroduced recently, my son, Joel Travis Lejean, was actually murdered in or around his cell on August 24th, Thursday, August 24th, 2023 at Red Onion Prison. So I received an invite. I'd like to offer my support and any other resources that I've come across while trying to deal with this. I'm more than happy to assist, and thank you for inviting me.
We appreciate you being on. Let's start with that. The issues we're about to discuss are sensitive to say the least. So to have individuals, obviously, on this town hall meeting who are directly impacted by some of the circumstances we're about to discuss is it's humbling. And I appreciate everybody who's tuning in and everybody who's going to be a part of this. So just to give you some background on what we're dealing with at Red Onion State Prison, which is located in Pound, Virginia, we have a hunger strike going on. The hunger strike is actually started by a person that I know relatively well. His name is Kevin Rashid Johnson. He's a participant with 13 others, and it could be more. The reason why we don't know the exact number is because communication with Red Onion State Prison has been cut off via a lockdown. We don't know the actual circumstances of this lockdown. We're being told it is a quarterly lockdown, and it's a situation where we are doing this in real time. Hence the flyer that you saw. This is happening right now. There are individuals who have not ate in days. If the date is correct, Allison or Jennifer, that is December the 26th.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so these are people who have been held in solitary confinement, which is actually outlawed via a statute that was passed, 53.1-39.2, that was supposed to go in effect on July the 1st of 2023. And yet this practice continues, not just at Red Onion, but across the state of Virginia. And Red Onion is the focal point for tonight. Red Onion has been the subject of numerous investigations. Red Onion has been the subject of a documentary that I've been able to watch personally. I've actually, excuse me if that blanked out, I've actually, in my 22 years of confinement, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Kenneth Hunter, affectionately known as Deuce. I spent 22 years in the Virginia Department of Corrections, and the very first prison I was sent to from receiving was Red Onion State Prison. Not much has changed. The same practices with new names. Preservation through transformation, actually a phrase I got from Michelle Alexander, who wrote The New Jim Crow. And in that book, she discussed how practices are preserved by just changing the name. And that's what's going on here in Virginia, and we want to bring some attention to this. We are not, we are not looking to cause a bunch of trouble. We are actually trying to agitate and change the conditions that our loved ones are incarcerated under. Red Onion, unfortunately, has a history of this abuse. These are not isolated incidents. We have Jeanette on to speak tonight because she can speak passionately and directly about her experience and with her son. And I wish I could say that she was the only one. I wish I could say she was an isolated incident. As specific as her situation is, it's not isolated. This is a series of things: murders, beatings, starvation. These guys are fasting, but voluntarily, but there are individuals who were starved almost to death. And we really just want to bring light to that. We want people to know what is going on. And towards the end of the show, we will cover what we think here at the Virginia Justice Alliance we can do about it. I really want to start with Jeanette, if it's okay with you. I was hoping maybe you could open the show with giving us a little bit of background and context about what happened to your son.
Okay, sure. Yes, my son, Joel, was apprehended in 2018, falsely accused of a sex crime, convicted and sentenced without any DNA, without allowing witnesses, and has been fighting his appeal from day one. As of spring of 2023, we were waiting. He was at his last level of appeal. He was actually being guided by an attorney out of Chicago from the Innocence Project. And we were at the last level of appeal at the U.S. Supreme Court. Just waiting for a date to be seen by the judge. Backstory: my son published a tell-all book back in December of 2021, naming all the officials, including arrested officers who were promoted to detectives, defense attorneys who were promoted to assistant DAs once he was convicted, judges, everyone. That book actually was, it's a self-published book entitled The Truth, Yet I'm Not Free. And that book actually was picked up by Barnes and Noble that week he was murdered. And I republished it under the title of Political Science, Government, and Legal Documentary. Now, my son, for the 5 years he was incarcerated and fighting this appeal, you mentioned Brother Rashid. Everything Brother Rashid has posted in any of his documentaries, podcasts that have been done on his behalf, my son experienced everything firsthand. The cuffs that are too small, being dragged, his head slammed into concrete, being sprayed with chemicals and not given medical attention for days, being shot at when he was on the other side of the compound when the incidents occurred, having a lieutenant give an order to an officer to spray him. Then the lieutenant said to him, "This is not personal. You're an intelligent young man and people listen to you, and that's dangerous." The lieutenant said this to him. Every time he was beat, one time he was beat, what is that? King Mountain, 7 correction officers. They threatened him that if he continued with the appeal, they would kill him. They threatened him. They beat him. Every time they did something to them, they told him to stop fighting that appeal. So we fast forward to the last week of his life. I spoke to him pretty much every day the week before, multiple times the days leading up to and the morning of. He was supposed to call me back at 2 p.m. and never called me. He couldn't have called me. They had already murdered him. They were trying to cover up his death. They said the medical examiner told me she did not know why he died or how he died. And it was so peculiar to her because she normally could determine how the death came about. For some reason, she couldn't figure it out with my son. She said this to me the morning I found out about his murder, prior to me seeing his body. Once his body was transported down to Newport News, I saw his body. He has a stab wound to his left temple, the shape of a key, with abrasion marks at both ends of where whatever stabbed him went into his head. But the medical examiner couldn't figure out what killed him. The left side of his back, the torso, was completely caved in, looking as if either his lung was deflated or removed. It was hollow, with a footprint on his torso, but she couldn't tell how he died. The left side of his face was so swollen and disfigured, and it's just the left side of his face. It was purple. There was still blood in the creases of his eyes. In his nose looked like fresh blood. And the bridge of his nose from right to left, right side was picture perfect. Left side was so swollen. There was an indentation that took the shape of his jawbone. His eye was swollen. The left nostril was swollen. And this part, not his lip, but this upper part was swollen all the way around to his ear where that hole was. But she could not tell what happened to him. We're now in January of 2024. It took them 2 months before anybody would respond to me. And as I shared earlier, the only reason why they responded 2 months after his death, and that's after contacting the governor, after contacting the new director that was put into position a couple of days after the murder, contacting everybody that's in Richmond, contacting Washington, our officials in Washington on Capitol Hill. Nobody responded to me for 2 months. I have a childhood friend who actually works for the U.S. Embassy, who is actually overseas. She contacted them. let them know who she was. Then all of a sudden I started getting phone calls. They still didn't know what happened. We were still waiting for an autopsy report and still nobody had answers. I finally got in contact, or was given the name of the special investigator assigned to my son's case. She herself took her mouth as if it was okay and said she never saw my son's body. She was 3 hours away and didn't have time to travel to see his body. He was pronounced dead at 3:57 p.m. at Dickinson Community Hospital. His 3:57 p.m. Thursday, August 24th, 2023. The autopsy was not conducted until after 10 a.m. Friday, August 25th, 2023, but she didn't have time to go see the body. And she said that they should be wrapping the case up in November. This is in October when I spoke to her. They were wrapping the case up. The medical examiner couldn't find a reason, and they were wrapping the case up. They didn't know what, and she was wrapping it up without the toxicology. We were waiting for toxicology to come back. She was wrapping it up without receiving the toxicology report and the completed autopsy report. So I took pictures of my son. I took a video. My daughter took a video of my son. I sent close-ups, different angles, and different sections of the damage to specific government officials, elected officials.
We've lost
Jeanette,
sound of Jeanette.
your sound is went down.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it might have been my hand. I apologize. Yes, I sent some of the pictures, sections of the pictures that we had to select government officials and department heads. Then all of a sudden they reopened they were no longer closing the case. Just 2 days ago, well, 2 weeks prior, I called the medical examiner's office asking for the report and what was the status. I was told that the Wise County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office sent them a letter stating not to give me the report because it was an ongoing investigation. Part of the story that I forgot to add was back in October when everyone all of a sudden started calling me, the Wise County Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney contacted me, stated she had literally just hung up from the special investigator assigned to my son's case, literally just hung up before calling me. And I asked her, so what are you going to do about my son's murder? She said, well, you can't call it a murder. We don't know that it's a murder. I said, I know it's a murder. Why don't you know it's a murder? She said, well, I didn't, they haven't presented me with anything. And these details that I just gave you, and including some other things that I left out, I shared them with her. There was audible.
What did they rule it? What did they rule your son's death?
They just ruled it 2 days ago a homicide. 2 days ago. 2 days ago. If I had not sent those pictures out, the next place was the news. If I had not sent those pictures out, they would have closed my son's case, and Lord knows what they would have ruled it. So I still have not received the autopsy report. I still have not seen a report. All I know is that they have ruled it a homicide. I do know that they intended to pin it on an inmate. And that was a slip up by the Commonwealth's attorney. It slipped out of her mouth by accident.
First of all, what a powerful testimony. It doesn't go unnoticed by me or anybody in the Virginia Justice Alliance what it takes to get on a call like this after going through what you've been going through, because it messes with me just hearing it. Just just knowing it. If you will allow me, I want to take a second to put this into a little bit of context. Red Onion State Prison, I'm glad you mentioned it. It is in Pelham, Virginia, but it is in Wise County. I want to say it was opened up 98, 99, somewhere in that time frame. This area, southwestern Virginia, if you will, it is a predominantly white area. So much so that during my tenure at Red Onion, I'm not sure I saw a Black staff member. And this is in 2002, so this has been some time. But I want to bring this into context for a reason, because what happens when individuals are sent miles away from home, and these places, if you're in the Tidewater area, we're talking about 9-hour trips to be able to see a loved one. Richmond area, you're still talking 5 and 6. Even in Central Virginia, here at Lynchburg, Roanoke, we're talking 4 and 5 hours to make that trip to see them. Not only that, I, during my tenure, met officers who had never interacted with a Black person, and they were honest about it. Not every officer there was like a monster. Like, there were some officers who were just intrigued by seeing a Black person in that setting, if you will. If you ride through the town, if you go visit an individual and you have to stay in the town, you'll notice quickly that there are not a lot of Black folks around whatsoever. The culture is different. And I'm not just like criticizing the culture. I'm just highlighting the cultural differences because I experienced the lack of understanding that comes from these officers. And so what we're talking about is young Black males, young males of color, Black, Hispanic, because there are other stories we're going to highlight later that deal with individuals who couldn't even speak English and were abused and tortured for that because their lack of ability to be able to communicate. But we're talking about like a culture clash. And so Jeanette was so kind to tell her story, and there's even more to tell. We have questions and we want to talk about it. We want to highlight it. But this is not something that just happened, unfortunately, in 2022 or 23. I can take you back to incidents in 1999, 2000, 2001, and you don't have to take my word for it. They're documented incidents. Now, just imagine the incidents that are not documented, because there are a lot of things that happen that don't necessarily result in death, but result in permanent mental disabilities, physical disabilities, and other adverse effects. I do want to open the floor up to my esteemed co-hosts to be able to ask questions, to be able to talk to Jeanette. I really want to hear what everybody else has to say.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. I've just been watching the chat as we're going, and I just again want to thank everybody. And yes, there is a active hunger strike at Red Onion, and we're bringing awareness to that. But we know, and we want to acknowledge, this is happening throughout the Virginia Department of Corrections. We know there's other people on here from other facilities, and it's bad. It's bad throughout. It's really bad in those mountain areas. They call it the Highlands, I believe, Deuce, right? And out there,
Yes.
we're in the middle of nowhere, and we see there's family members from Red Onion on here. There's wives, there's and individuals whose husbands are currently on the hunger strike. And so we want to say, you're not alone. We're here, and thank you for joining us. I did want to say that, and thank you, Jeanette. I know we spoke before this, so I heard that story, but just hearing it again, but I'm just very thankful that you're here and can give that voice for your family and your son.
Jenny?
No, I don't really have much to add at this second, more than what Allison said, because yeah, I just want to stress this is not new. What's going on. I want to thank the wives for getting on Jeanette for getting on. I know how painful this is to talk about. But we need to realize too, why are they doing this? We really need to sit down and address why they're doing it.
Jen, take a stab at it. Why?
They're treated like animals. We strip their humanization from them. The men that are locked up in these mountains are put in cages, literally wire cages. I've seen the pictures, smaller than dog cages that you would find in your backyard. And we leave them there. We have a client who's become a good friend who he touched my heart last week. He did 11 years in solitary up at Red Onion. 11 years straight. He finally got himself out of the mountains and they set him up at Augusta to go back up. He wasn't at Augusta 30 days before he was set up by staff and shipped back. They did not follow his mental health treatment plan. He was supposed to be single cell. Within a week being there, they had some young kid put in the cell with him, got into a fight back at Red Onion. But he was telling me last week how much it meant what we do, because after 11 years in solitary, he doesn't know how to communicate with another human being anymore.
Let me take this time to talk to all my voters who may be tuned in and who may watch this later. The Virginia Department of Corrections is a $1.5 billion agency. Well, that's how much money comes out of our tax money to fund the operation of the Virginia Department of Corrections. And they are possibly the only agency with a budget that large that operates with no oversight. None whatsoever. There's no checks and balances. Our entire United States government is based on the premises of checks and balances. It's the reason why you need a judicial branch, an executive branch, and a legislative branch, so that not one branch would have all the power. And yet in Virginia, we have an agency with $1.5 billion in taxpayer money that is able to make decisions with impunity. And that is the grand scale. I trickled that down to the lower scale that Jen was talking about. Not only is it possible, it is common for officers and staff to be able to retaliate against individuals in whatever fashion they see fit. There's no one to question them. Even in a hearing, if you're accused of having a knife, this is not an appeals court. Our criminal justice system needs reform, but we're talking about a whole criminal justice system inside of the Department of Corrections. We call it kangaroo court. That's the name of it. In prison, like, I got to go to kangaroo court. There's no real accountability. You don't have access to, as a prisoner, to video cameras to say whether or not that officer cussed at me or threatened me before he said that I was aggressive towards him in such a fashion. Because what happens with this ego is some guys are in prison and they get confronted by officers and threatened. And if you show anything less than submission, then you're going to be taught submission. Right? And there's nobody to check it. Imagine that. The people with the weapons and you're the guy with no weapon, and they have a whole gang, and they could come in your room literally and beat you to death. And if anybody's watching this and wondering if I'm exaggerating, Google it. Google it. It's not an exaggeration. And the sad part is, even as I speak, I wonder what kind of retaliation I might experience for being willing to talk about it. That's why I commend everybody who has the courage to come out and speak and say, hey, this is wrong. Well, we have, I think, over 30,000 individuals incarcerated in Virginia. Pardon me if any of my numbers are wrong, speaking from prior recollection. But these individuals are locked and hidden away through public propaganda. Because when you paint a picture in the media of crimes being committed on your 6 o'clock news, then you lose humanity for those individuals. When not everybody in prison is even locked up for the same thing. And how you treat individuals who have committed crimes is a direct reflection on society itself. Do we believe in redemption? That an individual, and Jeanette, my pardons to you, because the first thing you mentioned was that he was falsely accused. I can empathize with that, Jeanette. I can empathize with that. I understand. I know innocent people in prison right now. I even push farther, though, that even if he wasn't, he didn't deserve what happened to him. This is not the treatment that we want to be known for as a progressive country and a progressive commonwealth. You know, this is beyond ridiculous. And I am very empathetic to the individuals who have loved ones in other prisons, because this is a statewide epidemic. It is a statewide epidemic. But I am especially motivated by the individuals at Red Onion State Prison who have decided to make a sacrifice and bring attention to what's going on. You know, and with the loss of life that we've seen over the past 20 years, 20 plus years at Red Onion State Prison, it's high time that we start talking about this in the public forum. Jeanette, I want you to know you're a part of this panel. You feel free to interject whenever you need to say something, whenever you want to talk, whenever you want to add on. You are directly impacted. Your voice is what gives validity to this town hall meeting, and I really appreciate you being here. I have a few points that I do want to highlight, and as always with my co-members of the Justice Alliance, y'all know, interject when you feel like it. You know I go off on a tangent because I lived it, and it's still inside me. So, you know, this is my therapy. I want to talk about a Taekwon Lee. He was subjected to 600 days. That is almost 2 years of solitary confinement. The key thing about Mr. Lee is that he had mental health issues since he was a child. This is what happens in prison. So when you come to prison, if you have mental health issues, which it is estimated that I think over 60% of the Virginia prison population has some sort of mental health issue. I think it's probably larger, but this is what the clinically is what they're saying. So I say to myself, when an individual comes in with a mental health issue, especially severe, bipolar, schizophrenia, paranoia, you know, just all of the things you can mention. Imagine being placed into these adverse conditions and then being asked to move or do a certain thing when you don't even have the mental capability to understand what's being asked of you, and then being punished for it. So this was the case with one Taekwon Lee. Within 2 months, he began to exhibit symptoms of severe mental illness, including speaking only in numbers, losing the ability to even sign his own name. He couldn't even sign a document, which is what they want us to do, sign documents to say, hey, you're in the hole for this, you're in solitary for this. I want to talk about an El Salvadorian man who spent 13 years in Red Onion solitary confinement because he couldn't speak English. You know, the list goes on and on. I'd be here for a while trying to name all of the individuals I'm talking about. I really push for people who are watching to dig, to not take my word or Allison's or Jenny or Jennifer's word or Jeanette's word. Maybe we're biased. So you go dig. You go see for yourself. Go ahead, Allison.
I want to say the Salvadorian man. So Red Onion and Wallens Ridge, I'm not sure if they do it at Sussex, but you know, Deuce, they do the step down program, which is why people do long-term solitary, because they have to complete this step down program. And all the materials were in English. So this man sat in solitary confinement at Red Onion State Prison for 13 years because he could not complete that program because it was not in his language.
Let me. So just once again, to put this into context, I want to tell you how stupid the step down program is. And you know, pardon my frankness, it is what it is. So there was an outcry long ago about the use of solitary confinement. This isn't a new thing. This is not a new thing at all. I mentioned at the outset of our program, Preservation Through Transformation, what happened was when this made it into our General Assembly, some creative people decided, well, what we'll do is we'll create programs for solitary confinement, and we'll justify the use of it by saying at least we're treating individuals. So they came up with a step down program that would allow you to go through different levels of solitary confinement before you would be released in general population. I was actually placed in this program. At the time, it was called progressive housing. It lasted a year. You spent 3 months in complete solitary confinement, and then you spent another 3 months in solitary confinement with a roommate that was locked in the room 24 hours a day. And then you progressed into a time where you could come out of your cell, and the fourth phase was to be released into general population. So I just want to say, they've been really good about creating language. If you just read the paperwork, it sounds good. If you read the statutes, if you read the laws, it sounds good. It sounds promising, but it's not realistic. It's not true, nor is it being enforced. It's not really happening. It's lip service. You'll listen to people act like they're look, that doesn't exist. It's not happening. Without oversight, it's not happening in these prisons. People are being left in their cells. Here's what you guys don't know that probably isn't as documented as I would like it to be. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Come into segregation weighing 220 pounds. Spend, 21 days in segregation and leave weighing less than 200 pounds. There's not adequate food being given to individuals. That isn't just for segregation or solitary confinement. That is for the prison as a whole. But the prison population has access to commissary. Most segregation units don't give you commissary, so you are subjected to the diet that the prison provides, and it is insufficient and inadequate.
Well, and there's ghost trays. They give ghost trays as well.
My next subject, I swear, which was I've had the opportunity at Red Onion State Prison. At Red Onion, I wish Free from the 40 Strong was here to talk about this, but there was a time when I think that time still exists. They would ask you, do you want your outside recreation or do you want your tray? Do you want to go outside into those cages that Jennifer talked about, the size of a parking lot, or do you want to be able to eat food? You had to choose between the two. So, just something to think about as you try to figure out, as you read to what they've done over the past few years to so-called end solitary confinement. It has not ended. It has been changed in name, but not in practice. And this isn't just about solitary confinement as much as it is about a system or agency being able to operate with impunity. A friend of mine, somebody who I knew in prison, his name was Anwar Phillips. He was killed at Red Onion State Prison.
In solitary confinement.
Yes.
How does a person get murdered in solitary confinement? Right? How does a person get murdered in solitary confinement? It seems like ABCs to you and I. But somehow they accused another prisoner of it. It didn't stick, but it was just enough to make sure that no prison officials were charged with his death. I'll stop short of accusing anybody of his death. I'll stop short of that.
Duke, we have I want to read this. I just saw this in the chat. On November 8th, 2023, my nephew left this earth at Red Onion, but we don't know. He was not listed on anything publicly, but we'll fight for his justice. So we have someone tuning in who lost someone there as well.
Can we
Recently.
say their name? Can you respond and ask for their name? I want names to be said of individuals because these people matter.
Yes.
This is the whole premise of the loss of life and the abuse is because they think these people don't matter. You know, they don't expect anybody to fight for these people. You know, they expect for the community to have given up on these individuals. And that's what emboldened them to continue with the practices that have permeated the prison system since the advent of mass incarceration. This is a nonstop thing. You know, let's keep it honest. Like most of the prison population is from impoverished communities. Poverty creates crime, and therefore, fills the prison system. So most of the families and friends of individuals who are incarcerated don't have a lot of political stock, or at least don't understand it, or undereducated. And so because of that, they feel emboldened to be able to do what they want to do and act with immunity, even to the point of death. Jen,
Yeah.
I saw the chat. I just wanted you to elaborate.
On which part?
Oh, I just saw Sharonda Pat, and I wanted to.
That's-
That is, yeah, I didn't want to pronounce it wrong. That is the man that was recently passed away at Red Onion.
Wow. So the purpose of this town hall meeting, and for everybody who wants to know, this happened during a normal Virginia Justice Alliance meeting. The Red Onion hunger strike was brought up. We are scheduled to be in Richmond for lobbying days on various criminal justice laws. But this right here caught our attention, and I don't care if it was just a little spark, we wanted to contribute to it. We wanted to bring some attention and make some noise. And,
Yeah.
I for one, I was at Red Onion. I started there. I know people who are at Red Onion now. I'm in communication with them. Not right now because they locked the prison down and won't let us talk to anybody.
Right.
But, Allison in particular, as well as Jen, have LOs, or it's what we call loved ones, who are there and we speak to. And so we are directly impacted by the conditions at Red Onion State Prison and all over the Virginia Department of Corrections. You know what I'm saying? So that was the purpose of our town hall meeting, because we want to bring as much attention as we possibly can. But not only do we want to talk about the problem, we really want to get geared towards a solution. Allison, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but actually I do. Talk a little bit about what we see as the Alliance on what we would like to see happen moving forward to try to affect change.
We want everyone to get involved. I know we've been blasting out things to contact due to this hunger strike. We have a lot of different educational things and we can give you all, so please reach out, get involved. There are 2 petitions going on right now for the hunger strike. Our Laura, who's another board member, she's not on here right now because her and Amber, they're manning the chat. So Laura's gonna put those petitions in the chat. Please fill those out. We really need everyone involved. The General Assembly's coming up. It starts next week, the 10th. And we have another solitary bill going up and by Delegate Hope. And then we have the oversight bill, because at the end of the day, none of this can work if we don't have independent oversight. So following those bills, supporting those bills, if you're in Virginia, please call your legislator, talk to them,
Yeah.
tell them what's going on. We've been having meetings with legislators. They're asked them to visit a prison, request for your legislator to visit it. They really won't be able to go right now during session, but after session, really everywhere, but really the Western region, have them visit out there, request for them to talk to the residents, to look in the recreation logbooks, because they're also hunger striking, because not just solitary, these men in general population are being caged 22 hours a day. In general population, they're basically just stuck in in their cells all day. So, Jennifer, I'm forgetting things. What else we need and people to do the solution?
No, just kind of piggyback what you said, even in general population, the way they're being locked down is unconstitutional. There's been Supreme Court cases about how much outside time that individuals who are incarcerated should have. We need to be contacting Governor Youngkin. This continues to happen on his watch. He talks about needing to do better, and this continues to happen in DOC. This system is by design. I want to highlight that none of this is accidental. This is absolutely by design. Our prison system is built like this. We need people to show up, show out, to everything. Come out to the lobby days, call your legislators, email your legislators. They need to hear from us. I've been doing this. I was at the Capitol last year. I'll be back down there this year. They don't know unless we tell them. So many of these legislators have no idea until you sit down and tell them this is going on. And because so many people don't know unless they're directly impacted, we are fed so much propaganda from the media, from DOC. And that same propaganda is fed to our elected officials. And as citizens, we have the right. That is our building. We need to go down there and tell them what is going on so they can make informed choices. They're human beings just like us. Like Allison said, we've been meeting with legislators the last couple of weeks, and they're willing to hear us. I've seen legislators have their whole opinion and stance on prison reform change because of a story a loved one told. We have to humanize what's going on. These men in Red Onion right now, some of them have serious health conditions, are willing to risk their lives to bring attention to what's going on. The very least we can do is pick up the phone.
That last sentence. So I participated in hunger strikes. I voluntarily fasted before as well. Like, I need to do more of it now. But I used to fast as a practice. A hunger strike is different. A hunger strike is it's like a stare down. You're literally not eating, and it's ironic what they do. Okay, so you refuse a few trays. I just want y'all to know how it works. You refuse a few trays. I think it may be 3 days worth of trays. In other words, you tell them you won't even allow them to place it in your cell through the hole in the door. The next thing they do is cut your water off. They want to make sure you're not eating or drinking. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And then once they establish that for 24 hours, then they start looking for medical personnel to get involved. At some point, they will even involuntarily administer an IV. If you completely, there's a time limit on when they do such things. Just know that there's a protocol that they follow. This isn't the first hunger strike by far in the Virginia Department of Corrections, or even shout out to my brothers in Pelican Bay, which was one of the most notorious hunger strikes. I just want to say to the people that, from a person who came from 22 years of prison straight, don't neglect what it means to be able to eat a meal every day. Because I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be able to go to your local grocery store or a fast food joint or whatever. For an individual to decide he would rather not eat than exist in the conditions he's being exposed to is substantial. And there's no cheat code, especially at Red Onion. There's nobody sneaking you snacks under the door. It's starvation. It's literal. It's a very literal thing. You're not eating, you're not drinking, even maybe, to the point of, passing out. You're already undernourished anyway. So when I hear about individuals taking on, such a valid stance, like a stance that, it's a powerful stance to say, hey, I'm so tired of this, I'm willing to do this. I don't even know how to make it hit home for y'all. I just want you to know it's not a small undertaking. It's not a small undertaking. It's being completely fed up with the way you're being treated. Not everybody in prison is innocent. A lot of the individuals that we're talking about are not innocent, but they have been sentenced to a particular sentence that is protected constitutionally as it relates to their treatment. And stopping short of killing them and yet continuing to torture is just as bad or even worse. They're being tortured. They're being, and I know that these words can be twisted. You can look at like you're soft on crime. I will say this to everybody watching. I got a daughter and 4 grandchildren, right? I want the community to be safe. Yes, I don't want violent or people. I don't want nobody selling drugs to my grandchildren. Nah, this not even what we're talking about. We're not talking about being soft or not caring about crime. We're talking about the treatment of individuals after they've committed a crime.
It's not being soft on crime.
It's not at all.
Piggyback off what you're saying, dude. Recidivism rates are so high in this country because we fail at meaningful rehabilitation. We need trauma-informed care, not to inflict more trauma. Because what do you think what's going to happen when these men and women come home more broken than they went in? I had somebody tell me that he rehabilitated himself in spite of DOC, not because of DOC.
I'm him.
Who's on, Jennifer?
You're him.
Who's
Our
on here?
other G. Hawkins, one of our other board members who's not on here with us tonight. He's actually the one that said that to me. And he's come home and done amazing things in the last 6 months.
Jennifer, who's on here?
Free, the founder of 40 Strong,
What's up, 40
just was able to join us to speak with us for a few minutes.
Me and Free were actually at Red Onion together. Free, how you doing, man? Can you hear me, brother?
What's up, bro? Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Hey, yes, I hear you well. I'm so glad to have you on here, man. I need somebody to talk from a direct experience, man. So what's going on with you? Talk to me, man. You tuned in for a reason.
Yeah. First off, I want to send prayers and blessings to Jeanette for her loss. That's horrible. Thanking everyone, Virginia Justice Alliance, for giving us, a vehicle to air out our frustration. So I appreciate you, Jen, Jenna, everybody, the team that y'all got. Really appreciate it. There's a lot of pain in the moment. Anyone who've experienced it from a psychological, mental, social, spiritual level have been affected. Those effects will never go away completely. When you've seen things like men being carried across the yard naked, beaten, where you see friends today and tomorrow they look different because they were beaten, when your mail is withheld, your visits played with, your phone cut off for no reason, the extreme amount of solidarity within the good old boy network in Southwest, the nepotism of, okay, this sergeant doesn't like me, so the property officer who's his wife's sister doesn't like me, so I may not get my property for 3 months. If the commissary people don't like you, you may not get your commissary. The deaths are real. The suicides are real. Everything is real. So we know that it's real. You know, Google it. And I hate to sound like that, but the thing about abuse is that until we unite as a reformed community, as citizens, as human beings, this will continue. You know, they have a network. Like, everything is in order. It's the triangle of hate. King Mountain, Walnut Ridge, Red Onion. It's a triangle of hate. And how you adjust to that hate, how you survive that hate, is on each person. Every person is built different. Some people are stronger than others. I may be mentally more stronger than the next person. He may be more physically strong than me. But the pain is real. You know, so as we join tonight, like I said, I thank y'all so much for speaking on this. It really bothered me, you know, the team on the street. I thank Angela, Nairobi, everybody, Kirsten Knights, everybody that's on the 40 Strong team for connecting on this. Jen reached out. You know, they sent me a JPay like, look, Jen want to do this. I'm like, let's go. You know, let's get this out to the newspapers. Don Scott, you know, we can call Duncan every day. You know, humanity is worth a 2-minute phone call. Hey, I don't like this.
Bree, let me ask you a question, man. While I
Okay.
got you, and it might take a second for you to reflect, but you know, we were there. Not only were we there together. So, if you could dig in your mental Rolodex and tell me the most traumatic story that you witnessed or experienced while you were at Red Onion and or Wallens Ridge and or King Mountain. I know.
If anyone has a child, any child under 14 to 15, I will hope they're not listening on conference. And this will be a good time for your child or anyone who's sensitive to humanity things to kind of step away from the phone for a minute and a half. But the worst thing I've ever seen in my life was 2 officers at Wallens Ridge condoning a man being sexually assaulted. And when I say condoning, that means they're standing at the door, blocking the door. 2 people, these are human beings, standing at the door in the officer's uniform, cheering on, go ahead, get them, bend them over. Like, this was a reality. This is 2003, 2004. Of course, things have progressed in the mountains since then, but we know it hasn't changed to the point to where it's acceptable on any humanity level. But that was probably one of the worst nights of my life. And actually that night caused me to sit on the toilet and envision fighting and just coming at a different perspective to change it. And then we started, you know, Deuce, you was rapping, I was hitting the yard, passing out flyers on the Sussex, you know, Wallens Ridge, King Mountain, like everyone was starting to kind of band together and share these stories like, you know, this is crazy. We started writing grievances and stuff like that. But, you know, the night that I saw that, and it did something to me. And I don't think I've told probably 2 people this story because it's embarrassing to be in situations where you have to witness such debauchery when they say that we're the criminals and we're the bad guys. But for the gatekeepers and those who are supposed to protect, rehabilitate, to partake in the witnessing of a sexual assault in a way that was brutal and inhumane is just tough. You know, so Deuce, I would have to say the beatings I remember when they choked the guy, 2004, a couple of sergeants went into the cell, choked the guy. I can remember a few times where people were assaulted in the showers, different things, but that was probably the worst, too.
Hey, you know what's crazy? Because I know what you're talking about. I know
I
what
know you
you're
do. I know you do.
the
I know
the,
you
the
do.
the strangest thing about it is that like there is more solidarity amongst the prisoners in those situations than any other
Yes.
prisons in the Virginia Department of Corrections. People
Yeah.
usually
Yes.
bond through trauma. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
you know, I guess my thing is I wasn't sure if we would have you on tonight, Free. I really just
Yeah.
wanted somebody here with me to just, be a whistleblower. You know what I mean? To say,
Yeah.
hey, we lit. You know what I'm saying? Or to say that it actually
Yeah.
happened. I spoke earlier about like I don't know what this is going to mean for me or anybody on this call. We are up
Yeah.
against. This is definitely David and Goliath. This is
Yeah.
definitely an instance where, any opposition is reacted to with uh, extreme, extreme retaliation, and that's something
Yeah.
that we talked about as a part of the coalition to end solitary confinement. Shout out to Tasha White. Shout out to
Yes.
Kim
Natasha,
Snodgrass.
yes.
I
Yes.
could go on and
Kimberly,
on.
yes.
Shout out to the whole coalition, IAHR, and individuals who fought for the passing of
Solitary,
solitary
yes. And
confinement.
solitary,
Yes,
too. Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the problem is larger than solitary, and it's tough to fight for one particular lane when we know
That's
there are
right.
so many transgressions going on in the Department of Corrections. We wanted to use, and it isn't just us. I want to be clear. Even with Rashid, this wasn't just what they're striking for is not just for Red Onion. Uh,
Yes.
it brings attention to Red Onion, and
Yes.
we talked about this as an alliance. We said, hey, we're going to use Red Onion as a focal point because this is where the hunger strike is going on, but we want to use it to bring attention to the Department of
Yes.
Corrections as a
Statewide.
whole. Yes,
Yes.
yes. We have extreme lockdowns going on right now. We have,
Yes.
I talk to people all over Virginia, all over Virginia. Since COVID, lockdown is an accepted norm. Um,
Yeah.
uh, they are locked in their cells for not only just for COVID, but with fentanyl and other drugs being exposed to prison. Individuals who don't use drugs and or sell drugs are having to be locked down for weeks at a time for incidents far beyond their control. And you hope to see a change with a new director. I have not had the opportunity to meet Mr. Dodson. He sat on the Virginia Parole Board. He actually, to my knowledge, initiated the budget amendment that allowed for the oversight bill. I fast and pray that his intentions are pure and that he and others will support the passing of a comprehensive oversight bill that will allow an outside agency to oversee the grievances of individuals who are incarcerated here in the state of Virginia. Look, our time, we wanted to stay within an hour. We don't have literal time constraints. Obviously, we went a little past that. I do want to. I'll start with you, Free, and during that time, Allison, Jenny, Jeanette, and anybody, even Laura, you can reach me through the chat. I just want to hear your closing thoughts. I want to hear what you want to get out there to the listeners, and I'll start with you, Free.
Yes. So what we have to do now is have action. We all know the problem. We can Google the problem. We've talked about it. Jeanette has real tears to prove it. I have real traumatic stories. You know the story, dude. So the proof is there. So once you have the proof, the action has to come. So we are asking everyone to continue to call the governor, continue to email Don Scott, the Secretary of State, the Department of Justice. Just make it every day, 5 minutes. Send an email, send a phone call. Look, I'm a Virginia taxpayer. I don't like what's going on at Red Onion. The abuse has to stop in the state of Virginia. If you say that every day, all of us, you know, those who can, if we write letters from here, y'all call, it could change something. Also, January 16th, Second Look Lobby Day. January 17th, 40 Strong Lobby Day. That's not to advertise the lobby. That's if you're there, speak on Red Onion. If we're fighting for second chances and second look, if you happen to show up on the 16th, hey, I'm fighting for my loved one to come home. But look, I also don't like what's going on in Red Onion. So speak on it if you can come out the lobby day. And that's it. Let's stay unified. If anyone reach out to Angela, Nairobi, the people that run the 40 Strong page, Kirsten, Chris, we're work. You know, we're ready to work. If you have an initiative, we'll post it. We'll keep the word out. We'll do all we can. And I want to thank you all again. I don't want to take up the time. Thank you, Jen, Deuce. I have to get ready to go. It's almost time for us to go. And I thank y'all so much for letting me on tonight.
Thank you for
Hey, Free, man.
Justice for the Red Onion Man.
Thank
Justice
you.
for the Red Onion Man. 14
Justice
men.
for Red Onion.
Hunger strike. Justice for the Red Onion Man. Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much.
Free, I love you, brother, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, man.
You know, it's all love, always. All right.
Jen, let's go to you next.
I just want to reiterate what I said before. Get involved with us, with other organizations. We're always willing to teach people. I started with nowhere and somebody took me under their wing, so I'm willing to do that for anybody who's willing to put in the work. We need people to get involved. We need people to email, call, show up. IHR is having a advocacy training January 15th. I'm not sure if there's still seats available. You can always reach out to Natasha White or myself, and I can get in touch with Natasha to see if there's still space available. January 16th, we'll be out at supporting the ACLU Lobby Day, and January 7th, we will be out with the Solitary Coalition. We need to speak on Red Onion. We need to speak on oversight. All of these reforms mean nothing if we do not have meaningful oversight. I used to be a prison monitor in Pennsylvania. Oversight works. I seen it firsthand. We absolutely need independent oversight to stop these atrocities that continue to happen. So,
Jeanette, I don't know if you're still with us. If you are, could you give us a few words in closing? What would you like to be heard about Joelle and whatever you feel is important?
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, yes, thank you. Again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity. Just a quick re-mention of what you said. This institution was created by design. It is not broken. It is operating the way it's supposed to operate. You also said that the underlying cause is poverty. So while you have all these good or nice sounding rehabilitative ideas or these different things, if they go back home, even if the best rehabilitative program has been completed and they have no way to provide food and shelter, there will always be recidivism. As far as a call to action, since this system is a system by design, there's no need for any type of rebuilding or any type of correction or revamping. It needs to be completely and utterly destroyed from the roots and the core. All those who actually participated, all those who participated in the development, all those who colluded, they all need to be removed, and an entirely, totally different type of system, beginning with eradicating poverty, needs to be implemented. But in the meantime, the families of those murdered while under the care, have family members that were murdered while under the care of Virginia Department of Correction. We do need to unify. It's time for a class action suit. This is a human rights issue that should reach the United Nations. It's time to come out of Virginia, and it's time to come out of the US. We need to go higher with what's going on. These atrocities have been going on for decades. And again, I thank you for the opportunity. I did put my contact information. It's free. I would appreciate if you share it. Again, we
Yes.
family need to combine. You said unity. They make sure not to say the names of our loved ones. They still haven't said my son's name. That's why I say it, Joel Travis Lejean. We need to know each other. We need to support each other, and we need to come against them together. And that's what I have to say. Thank you so much. Everyone be blessed and protected.
Thank you.
Powerful, Jeanette. Thank you for coming on the show. Jenny Gibson.
Thank you, Jeanette, for sharing that story, because I know there's people here who might be their first time joining something like this, and they need to hear things like that so they can stand behind you. I just have a couple of things actually I wanted to add because of the things that you just said and because of what Deuce said, and one more call to action for you all too. So when you talk about getting involved, and one thing that we're focused on is kind of breaking the school to prison pipeline, and we do have upcoming bills for the next session. So Miss Jeanette, we would probably like to talk to you about that, because you mentioned the United Nations, and we're trying to take some thoughts from them and try to, at least while if people are going to be locked up, treat them right. Next, you talked about destroying the system from the root and poverty causing mass incarceration. And I'll tell you, the reason I wanted to mention that is because I just this morning went to a Democratic meeting in my area. I'm sure everybody has them. Point being, it's most important to get involved on the state level. You have to know who your delegates and your senators are. And if you don't know, please ask us. We can show you how to find out. We can either go with you or find someone to go with you to a meeting, to their office, to email, to a Zoom, for a phone call. It is really scary to do that. We know it's scary to do. It's hard to even talk. I had to talk in front of the whole place today of these people just getting ready to go to General Assembly. So what I'm saying to you is you're absolutely right. And my delegates and senators are very focused on community, poverty, making housing affordable. I mean, all of these things to try and keep them from getting into, too far gone. And one other thing I wanted to say is we have been working most recently with a reporter from Breaking Through News. And so anybody affected, I know there was several people affected by Red Onion in particular, but anybody affected by anyone in prison in Virginia, they have allotted investigators and reporters. Okay. They do, they're constantly doing investigations. We're in close contact with them. So far, they have written 8 articles on Red Onion alone, which has been viewed over 600,000 times, 600,000 reads plus. And they want me to let you know that the fight that we and you all and all of us are doing isn't in vain, okay? Because these things are getting read, and this is blowing up, and the more we do it, the more people will find out, and we share and we share and we share until this system is fixed. So you can, if you have tips, of course, contact us, stay in touch with us. If there's anything you need, any questions you have, no dumb questions. We were all new at this at one point. But if you can't get in touch with us, or you need to share some news tips or something, info@breakingthrough.com is somewhere you can send tips. Like I said, though, we're pretty close with them. So we're happy to help you get in touch with them too. So any way that we can help, we can be middlemen, keep you anonymous. We're very familiar with retaliation. I've had to deal with Red Onion as well. So we want to serve to make sure that people don't get retaliated against. We want to help. So reach out to us. Thank you.
And Allison.
Yeah, that's hard to follow everyone's ending thoughts. I just want to thank our viewers for coming, and everybody that's directly impacted. Just know you're not alone. I know this can be very isolating when you have a family member that's enduring this, and you're not alone. There's so many people out here trying to fight for their rights. That's what we do. We're fighting for human rights. And so just know you're not alone, and, reach out to your loved one. I know Red Onion in particular, a lot of other places are locked down. Send those letters. If you can get up there and visit this weekend, Red Onion family members, please visit them this weekend and reach out to us if you hear anything, because since communication's been blocked, the only way to speak, and I know a lot of people are out of state, myself, so it's okay if you can't make it up there, but just wanted to call that out if you can. And thank you again, and for joining us.
Um, in closing, I want to thank everybody who tuned in, but I also want to thank Jeanette for having the courage to come over here and share a story that is not popular amongst a lot of people. I also want to personally thank the individuals in the Virginia Justice Alliance. My phone dings all day from these ladies, all day, and every day. People who are actively pursuing leads, actively doing research, actively planning meetings. We have meetings on the agenda right now with senators and delegates. We're going to be in Richmond. The same stuff we saying on the Zoom call, we're going to be looking politicians in their face and asking them what they're going to do about this. And I'm more than willing to be the mouthpiece, but these girls make it happen. These ladies make it happen. They go above and beyond in ways that myself and others have not been able to, because it takes a collective. It really does. It takes individuals who don't even look like each other to figure out what is your role and what can you do to affect that change. We all have a role to play on a personal level, a very personal level. I just want to tell anybody who is in contact with those brothers at Red Onion State Prison, we support you. We believe in your right to humane treatment. Really, really as simple as that, in that box right there. It has nothing to do with the crimes. It has nothing to do with what you've been accused of. We believe in humane treatment. We don't just believe it, we know it to be right. And so we're willing to fight. We're willing to support you. We're willing to take chances relative to the struggle that you're dealing with. Those individuals who are incarcerated in Virginia DOC, you are not forgotten. In fact, those individuals who are incarcerated across the United States, you are not forgotten. People care about you. People don't support the way that you've been currently treated. And the Virginia Justice Alliance is here. I know I'm not going to be able to name all of the organizations who are getting busy here in Virginia. I will talk about the ones I know about personally. The Coalition in Solitary Confinement, I hold dear to my heart. I served on that coalition. I know that those individuals are passionate about ending solitary confinement here in Virginia. I will talk about the 40 Strong, represented by Free tonight. I've watched his work and the work of individuals involved with the 40 Strong. I say that to say that there are numerous organizations. If you're sitting around wondering, I don't know what to do, where there's leadership. There's leadership. There are people that I just named that you can get in tune with. Everybody on this phone call is accessible. This Zoom call.
Yeah.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out. Facebook messages. Go on our Virginia Justice Alliance. Kenneth Deuce Hunter is my name on Facebook. I answer messages all day. Holla at me. Simple as that. Holla at me. Let's chat it up. I put you in touch with the right people you need to try to further whatever your agenda may be. Whatever individual agendas we may have, they are all collectively unified in that we believe in the better treatment of prisoners. You know what I'm saying? We have a very real thing going on here in the Virginia Department of Corrections. We have a living thing going on. People are being tortured, starved, beaten. This isn't sensationalism. It's happening. It's happening right now. There's individuals who haven't eaten days right now as we speak. There are people who haven't been outside or seen the sunlight in days right now as we speak. This thing is happening. So we're on this comfortable Zoom call, and I send kudos to the viewers who decided to sacrifice an hour and change, out of your evening to come in here. But please follow up with action. Now is the time for some action. And the action is legal. This is not like some turn the roof over revolution. This is, hey, we want accountability. And I also, last but not least, want to speak to the legislators that may get wind of this meeting.
Yes.
We will support you. Jenny, we talked to Senator, I'll let the senator remain nameless. But after we talked about our issues, Jenny said, what are you supporting? And what can we do to help you? And this is our attitude towards everyone. You know, if you have our interest at heart, then we have your interest at heart. We really want to affect change, not just in the things that we're passionate about, but in society as a whole.
Yeah.
So to all the legislators who may get wind of this, we are an alliance who is willing to advocate for those who are willing to advocate for us.
Yeah. I just want to take 1 second to say a special thanks to Delegate-elect Michael Jones for taking the time out tonight and watching this. He was in the comments on the Facebook Live. So hopeful to see, you know, our elected officials joining us in these spaces and really taking the time to learn what's happening.
Listen, I want to thank y'all. Like I said, I want to thank everybody who tuned in. I want to thank definitely the legislators. I want to thank the directly impacted who care enough to figure out what's going on. I want y'all to know we got a lot in the works in 2024 as the Virginia Justice Alliance. We are working on a bi-weekly podcast. I probably announced that prematurely. I don't care, Jen. I don't care, Alex, but we're working on this. And
no, we will be back in February.
Yeah, this was an emergency. We wanted to come and say, hey, this is happening in real time, and we're going to talk about it. But we're going to work to further educate the community and the public about what's happening in these institutions that have been shrouded from accountability, shrouded from vision. We're going to make it visible. That's what we're doing. We're going to do everything we can to make it visible. I can't wait to hear from you guys. I can't wait to hear feedback. What can we do better? What can I do better? How can we, what questions do you have? What information do you want made available? We are research rats. All we do is research within the Virginia Justice Alliance. So if you can't find it, we will. If it's available, we'll dig and find it. Not even me. It's really Alice and Jennifer, Jenny, and Laura. They really research crazy, but still, you get the point. Thank you. I hope I ended your night with a smile, though we have some very daunting challenges in front of us. A smile with a sense of reservation, because I know there's some individuals who may not be smiling, but I pray that them finding out that we're fighting for them will give them some sense of encouragement. And I appreciate everybody who tuned in. I am Kenneth Hunter on behalf of the Virginia Justice Alliance, and we wish you peace and blessings. And I hope to see you soon. Peace.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
night.
Thank you.
Night.